What is the secret to learning any new word in a new language? There is a common misconception if you're at school learning a language, or maybe even you sign up to a language course, where they teach you to learn new words using lists. It could be a list of cutlery items, for example, or pets, things like that. However, learning new words in this way is not efficient, and the best way to do it is learn it in context and use ready made phrases that have the words inside because it gives your mind something to relate to. It gives it context, and then with context, your brain has something to associate the word with, so emotions and feelings. And in this video, I'm going to dive deeper into how that works and how you can benefit from being able to remember new words and phrases in less time. My name's James, I'm native in English, puedo hablar español y anche posso parlare italiano. I help people reach their language goals in less time. So, first thing to do is don't use lists of words. Instead, try and associate it with a context. So, if you're learning the word, say, car, instead of just learning the word car in itself, you surround it with a context. And what I mean by context is you have a meaning to it. So if you have a set of tools, for example, to repair something, you don't learn what a spanner is, you don't learn what a screwdriver is, you use it for the thing that you want to use it for. So you zoom out and focus on the real world use of it. So if, for example, you see the word car and you're trying to remember it, think of garage or think about what you use a car for, getting from A to B. Maybe you drive to destinations which you go on holiday for in your car, and that will have a positive emotion attached to it. So think of it not in isolation, but connected with a feeling. And what that does is it tells your brain that that is important. Think of the amount of times that you've been wanting to learn a different language. Maybe you've been on holiday to Spain or you're going on holiday and you've tried to remember a few different words in isolation for things that might be useful for you. But then you get there and you don't remember any of it. But what you do remember is you looked at a few phrases beforehand, maybe la cuenta por favor, which means the bill please. And the word cuenta is inside that. And what that means is when you use that phrase in a restaurant, when you're abroad, when you're in the location that you want to use it for, you can more easily remember the word because it's part of the phrase. So you might have in the past been laughing with friends and they say, oh, say this phrase in Spanish or in Italian or something. And you try and learn it and you have a bit of fun around laughing about it. Well, it tends to be the phrases that you laugh about and you make fun of that actually stick in your mind because there's emotion and context and association behind it. The worst thing you can do is try and learn a word in isolation when there's nothing for your mind to grab onto it. The more association you have with a word like positive emotions or even negative emotions, your brain will find it easier to remember that in the long term. And I point on that, there's two benefits here. The first one is that it's quicker for your brain to learn it, so you learn that word in less time because it's in a phrase or surrounded by context. Secondly, you don't only learn it quicker, but it sticks in your mind for long term. So you retain it for longer in your head. So there might be situations where you forget a word in the target language you're learning and you just can't remember it. If you do it this way and have context or something associated around it, some thoughts or feelings associated with that word, then your mind is able to save it for longer and have a stronger association with it. On a side note, if you're quite early on in your language learning journey, what I've built is a video-based language course which is called Language Launchpad. And as the name suggests, it helps you if you're starting from absolute zero or from very, very low down, and it teaches you how to get to your desired level in any language. It works across all languages, as do all of my videos, because these principles can be applied to any language. So it's not a language course where I'm teaching you how to speak Spanish or Italian. It's more a set of tools and techniques that you can use in your own time to learn a different language. And there's also an online community that you can use to get help when you struggle. But essentially, there's 5 modules, 50 videos in total that teach you how to learn a language from scratch. So if you're interested, there's a link below to find out more. Anyway, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about is a concept called spaced repetition. And this is when, if you learn a new phrase or a new word in context, then what you can do is over time, you learn it at more spaced intervals. So initially, you might try and practice a word. Okay, you learn it at, say, 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Then at, say, midday, you look at it again, you refresh your mind, and then a few hours later you do the same. Then you do it the next day once. Then after that you do it 2 days later, then 3 days later. So you space the amount of time after you learn it. So gradually over time you learn it less frequently, but that helps it to stick in your mind in the long term. And that's what it is. So it's repetition, but it's spaced over time in such a way that you repeat it in longer intervals as time progresses. And that essentially replicates the way in which your mind identifies something as important, because if it hears it quite often and it's refreshed in your mind, it will become more obvious to you. It applies to any new skill really. Playing an instrument, initially if you put a lot of work into it, you get better and better and better, and gradually over time you don't have to play it as frequently every day to still remember how to do it. You can come back 6 months later, be a little bit rusty, but still be able to pick up quite easily. And it's the same with this, same with language learning. If you try and learn a word in context, you do it quite a lot in the first few days. You try and hammer it in your mind quite a lot the first few days. Then afterwards, after say a week or a few weeks, you don't have to visit it as frequently. Obviously, ideally, if you're practicing the language, you'll be using it in conversation in general anyway. And the more common the word is, for example, if you learn a word and, that's used loads in general conversation. So the more often a word comes up in general conversation, the more it will be solidified in your mind naturally. And you won't have to use spaced repetition on the side because you'll be doing it by practicing with natives anyway. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you found it valuable. Now, YouTube is really good at recommending videos it thinks will help you get closer to your language learning goals in less time. And this video will help you do that. See you later.